The new parts have arrived from the factory without issue. They'll be fitted to the car in time for the next session.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 128 today for the Bahrain Grand Prix in Season 7. If you guys did miss the previous one, then the opening round of the Australian Grand Prix, then be sure to check that one out before you see this one. Obviously in our brand new team, Alfa, Romeo, Sauber, and going to the second round, then we have two engine upgrades to talk about there. The two minor upgrades to engine power and fuel consumption, and you can see on the performance chart that actually takes us quite a long way, because it looks like the scaling on this season's chart is actually quite small compared to previous seasons, so that gap actually looked quite big from where we were at the beginning in round 1 to Red Bull and Renault. We've already closed the gulf halfway to Red Bull, so we have a further two minor upgrades to do on the engine, and we could close up to Red Bull completely there, so that's actually quite good news for us. But hopefully those engine upgrades will come in clutch, because Bahrain is a bit of a power circuit, and we've definitely, in the past been a little bit slow in a straight line around Bahrain. Also in between with the setup I usually run at Bahrain, which tends to be on the bit of a heavy aero side, so hopefully that can be good for us. Australia was a bit of a difficult race. There was some positives, but there was also some very large negatives in terms of still getting used to the car. I talked a lot about in that episode about the Sauber feeling very odd, and I think a few of you guys were also agreeing that the Sauber definitely is a bit of a different kind of car compared to the Red Bull, even if the performance chart says otherwise in terms of we're the third best car on the grid. But the way the car handles, you can tell, like I said in the last episode, that this used to be a bottom 3, bottom 2 car in a way, even though it has that pace and has the time. Getting used to it and being able to match my teammate Leclerc is going to be a bit difficult, I think. I got beat by Leclerc last race. This race, we're going to try and respond, hopefully, and the first and foremost way to do that is qualifying, of course. So we're here in Q1 under the floodlights, but you can see here already the car twitching about a little bit. I've got to say, that in that last clip there, the last bit of that section, as you go up the hill to the end of Sector 2, oh my word, this car was a handful. So I think on heavier fuel, this car definitely is going to be quite tricky, especially tyre wear wise, to maybe keep under wraps, because I think the rear end is going to be quite loose and quite floaty. So we're going to have to watch out for that. We go into Q2 then, thankfully, make it into Q1 actually quite easily then in the top 13. So that wasn't much of an issue. It wasn't like a kind of just about made it in P15. So that gave me a little bit of confidence, but we'll see how it goes. At the moment, Leclerc actually sets the fastest provisional time so far in this session, but I don't think many people have set their times. It's quite a barren track here at the moment, so we're going through on our flying lap then and trying to do just the best job we can. The traction was actually pretty good, I've got to say that, compared to the Red Bull, maybe previous career mode cars I've driven around Bahrain. The traction I felt was pretty decent in the Sauber. It's just the immediate turn-in and then mid-apex and some of these corners, it really did feel like I had no sense of grip, just like that. The rear end just snapped and the car just floated about mid-corner when I wanted to put down the power. So I think that'll probably be a common theme in the first few episodes here. I can't lie, just about getting used to the car really. But we're going to move on then to the performance in Q2 then. The first lap under our belt wasn't great though. You can see in the top left we're at P10, but we've got both Red Bulls behind us. Gasly there, and Verstappen, you can't see, is also behind. So we do need to improve, because I expect at least both Red Bulls to go much better, and so we won't be in the top 10 by this measure at the moment. But as we go through the next section, we're met with a horrendous amount of traffic with the Force India car. I don't know what on earth he was doing there, parked up mid-apex. He's on an outlap. He starts his flying lap now as I go into the pit lane with damage on the front wing. We get rolled in. We've got to do repairs. Leclerc's coming at the same time. There's not enough time in the session, let alone, even if we didn't have repairs to do, there's not enough time in the session. And so that Force India has completely ruined everything. And so as you go on through to the end of the session, you can see I'm waiting for the timer to tick over. We're P10 still, but then it's that classic thing. It goes to black, fades out from black, and surprise, surprise, a lot of people have improved their times. And so we went from P10 at the end there to P13. I had a small hope that I could have actually made it to the top 10 still, despite that issue with the Force India car. But then, yeah, like I said, the fade to black just killed us down to P13. Leclerc only just made it into P10, but yeah, horrendous amount of traffic. I hope that Force India car, I think it was Bottas maybe, gets a penalty for it or something like that, because that really was not, he was on an outlap, so he should have got out of my way. I was on flyer. He was just so awkwardly, so slow mid-apex, and that's a corner where there's not actually different racing lines you can take in that corner and not lose time. There's only pretty much one racing line, which is hitting the apex and then going a little bit wide and then cutting in. Otherwise, you're just going to lose major amounts of time, and I couldn't afford to lose time. I was only one or two tenths up on my first flying lap in Q2 there, so I had to go for it, and in the end, that Force India, I was hoping it was just going to duck out of the way, but it just did not do that, and so we're down P13. So, bit of a disappointment in our second race race here for the Alfa Romeo Sauber team in qualifying, but we'll try and do our best in the race. Sunday's a different day, and we're just going to have to make the most of it, really, and just try and be a bit positive. So let's go to the grid then, maybe see if there's any early grid penalties for anyone to help us out, and also see how Leclerc does in the top 10 shootout, and we'll go to this race.
There's something in the Bahrain air tonight, and I'm not just talking about the sand. Our brightest minds have thrust their brightest ideas into the spotlight of the Sakhir circuit this evening as we look ahead once more to a Grand Prix that has thrilled us so consistently in the past. There's no shortage of passing opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit, with the best at turn 1 of course, and then another soon into turn 4. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and we could see 1 or 2 flat spots into the tight left-hander of turn 10. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. No grid penalties, no mitigating circumstances, just a poor qualifying performance and a very disappointing start position for them today.
It's not a nice feeling, I promise you. They've got a quick car underneath them, but they've got onto the grid today and they need a pair of binoculars to see the start lights. They'll be desperate for a good start to make up for some of that deficit.
So let's have a look then at the starting grid ahead of the Bahrain Grand Prix for Season 7 of this F1 2018 career mode. A great day in the office for the Mercedes cars as they lock out the front row. Hamilton on pole alongside Hockenheim. Then it's all Red Bull in the second row. Pierre Gasly getting the better of Max Verstappen. Fernando Alonso P5 in the first of the Renaults with Valtteri Bottas, Leclerc and Carlos Sainz next. And then the last row of the top 10 is all Toro Rosso. Dan Ricciardo P11, Vettel P12, myself P13, Perez 14th, Brent Hartley in P15 with Grosjean 16, Raikkonen and Magnussen next. And then the last row of the grid is the Williams cars of Sorokin and Lance Stroll ahead of this Bahrain Grand Prix. Right, so here we are on P13, and obviously by the grid sequence there you saw, not making the top 10 is that standard glitch, unfortunately, that's still in career mode, despite being months now after release, of if you don't make it in the top 10 shootout, the top 10 is simulated at performances of Season 1, so that's why both Mercedes cars were right up there, the Red Bulls were right up there in the second row, locking out there, so we'll see what the true performance is like here on paper now. In reality, in the race, I expect maybe the likes of Alonso to be right up there, and hopefully Leclerc can also bounce up. I expect the Red Bull start to make some early overtakes on the Mercedes cars potentially, but there is a chance they can hold up. You know, it is there's a fair amount of traffic and dirty air you can get in Sector 2. But anyway, strategy-wise for us is going to be that one stop there. That says soft to medium tyres, but I'm actually going to switch it. I'm going to go on to super softs to begin with. We're going to set ourselves our sights on a 2-stop, but then I'm going to leave myself very much open for conversion into a 1-stop. We've done the 1-stop before many times now at Bahrain, where you go from super softs onto either softs or medium tyres, but basically you start on the fastest compound available here. And for us, I think that's the best way to go, because I need to be punchy. I need to try and make some overtakes early on in this race, try and get up from P13, and then we'll sort out the tyre wear and the strategy later. We're going to go a little bit lower on fuel than I have been doing, because I think, you know, this engine seems pretty fuel efficient to an extent. Not as fuel efficient as the Honda was in the Red Bull car last season, but still pretty good. So that's going to be the plan today, and we'll just try and make as many places we can at the very start. And like I said, then we'll sort it out from then. So here we go then. We're going to rev the car up and psych ourselves up as we go to 5 red lights. For round number 2 of Season 7, this F1 2018 career mode. 4 lights are out and we're underway, and it is a great start there compared to Sebastian Vettel, and so we're going to get a jump ahead of the Ferrari car, who actually has done quite well to qualify that high up to say how down low the Ferraris have been, but then Vettel dive bombs it down the inside of about 4 or 5 cars there. I'm going to try and follow him through. We're up into P11 now, having made an overtake on Ricciardo there. Yellow flags though, and we're now side by side somehow with Carlos Sainz, who didn't have a great time in the top 10 shootout there. Of course, the simulation probably having something to do with that, so we're going to try and take a leaf out of Vettel's book and send one down the inside here as he now battles very harshly against the Toro Rosso of Esteban Ocon. There's Van Dorn. The other Toro Rosso is behind us for now, but we're going to try and make sure Carlos Sainz of the car behind us now as we're up the order, and Vettel and Ocon still side by side there. So Vettel making a very good start, and is this now the start of maybe a Ferrari resurgence this season? Maybe I was spoken too soon, but definitely Vettel's doing a lot better than I thought he would be at the moment here in round 2 of this season, considering how bad Ferrari were last episode. But we're going to chase after these two. Well, it's still neck and neck now for pretty much half a lap or more. Vettel, though, has to give up the position. Surely he tries to make a move, but has to slot in back behind. But we're going to say something about that as we bang tyres a little bit there. We're just about going to manage to find a way through there. literally threading the needle there. That was literally so close to the curbing, and that curb is so nasty here at Bahrain. That one little tyre face on that curb, and you're getting spun round. So very fine margins there, but we're up into P9, so this is a good start we've made here, and Leclerc is only 2 positions ahead of us, so that is exactly what I wanted. You know, obviously I like both of us to be a bit higher, but at least I'm getting closer to my teammate relative. Obviously that's the first man you want to try and beat in any situation here. So we now move on to the end of lap 2, on to lap 3. Ocon now sending one down the inside of the Force India though. Bottas getting his elbows out. Very much so. Obviously, he was the man who took us out in Q2, so I'm not surprised, to be honest, and hopefully we can try and overtake him swiftly as Ocon is going to get past him with DRS here. I think that will be down the inside. The Frenchman goes to the Toro Rosso. Sainz has a look around the outside as we go. Very cautious under braking, because I don't want to get in the middle of Bottas and Ocon fighting. And there you go. That's why Bottas being squeezed out by Ocon, so we can have a good run at the fin in the Force India car. Sainz still very much behind us in the mirrors. You can see he's closing up. We slam the door shut on him as we want to be on the left-hand side. On the outside now for the next part into Sector 2 we go. We're going to really squeeze Bottas quite harshly to the right on the outside then, and we're up into P8, and Bob's your uncle. Very nice move there on the fin. That caused us issues in Q2, so thankfully past him, and hopefully we won't be taken out of this race by him. As now we look on to a replay camera, and you got the 2 Red Bulls fighting away. Gasly overtaking Verstappen, and Alonso right up the gearbox of a Mercedes car. I don't know which one that was. I assume maybe at this stage still lap 5. Both Mercedes are just about hanging on to their 1-2, but I think it'll only be a matter of time before the entire top 10 really puts the pressure on those Mercedes cars, because obviously they're only the 4th best team on the grid on paper on the performance chart. Meanwhile now on lap 6, the next lap or 2 down the inside of Esteban Ocon there. Bit of a lock up on the front left, so he just narrowly make the corner actually. That worked out for us, squeezing him into the apex, and so we're up into P7, and Leclerc is the very next car up the road. So actually we've done very well to actually catch back up, and it seems like Leclerc is now only catching up to the 2 Red Bulls, whilst Fernando Alonso makes a move on the first Mercedes car of the day. That's Nico Hülkenberg. So it's Hamilton that leads the way then, I'm guessing. Alonso P2, Hülkenberg P3. You got the 2 Red Bulls then next of Gasly, Verstappen, and then Leclerc is the next car, and hopefully we can try and catch up to this entire train if they fight enough, because look at that now. Gasly making his way past Hülkenberg, then he actually has a little bit of a look maybe on Alonso as well, but round the outside Gasly goes, obviously the kind of lead Red Bull car from last race, with Verstappen being taken out by, well, him. So let's see if Gasly can kind of try and maybe match the performance he had at Australia. Looks like both Red Bulls are actually wanting to haggle and hassle the Mercedes car there, but Verstappen goes very wide, and Leclerc sends it to the inside there. Very opportunistic, and he's up the order ahead of Verstappen. Great move there by my teammate Leclerc, and so he's ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen tried to make a move on the outside of Hülkenberg, but Hülkenberg got squeezed up by Gasly, so inadvertently Gasly kind of ruined Verstappen's race there a little bit yet again, and now Leclerc sent one to the inside of Hülkenberg and slowed Verstappen and Hülkenberg up so much that look at this. What on earth is going on? Absolute dream teamwork there by Leclerc and myself. Leclerc sends one to the inside of Hülkenberg, slows him up so much that a domino effect occurs. Hülkenberg gets slowed up by Leclerc. Hülkenberg slows up Verstappen, and then I go around the outside of both of them, and that's a beautiful little 2-man pass. And so we now line up in P4 and P5 respectively, with Pierre Gasly in P3, Alonso P2, and Hamilton still leading the way. But that is a very good showing from what was, I think, was P8. I think Leclerc had on the grid in qualifying, myself P13. Both of us in the first 7 laps move up to P4-5. That is a dream start for the entire Alfa Romeo Sauber team. But now you can see the 3 top guys come in, Hamilton, Alonso, Gasly, and so it's actually now a 1-2 on track for the Alfa Romeo Sauber team. So Leclerc regains the lead of the Grand Prix. Myself in second place, both of us wanting to go a little bit longer than the guys around us. So maybe the tyre wear, unlike Australia, maybe the tyre wear is going to be a little bit better for us around Bahrain. So that might be an invitation to do this one stop that I was talking about at the very start of the race. But Leclerc comes in on lap 10. I'm going to continue on for one more lap. I actually did want to come in technically on lap 10, but obviously he's the lead car, so he has personal preference. So we're going to come in on the very next lap now as we move on to lap 11, and we're going to strap on the set of soft tyres. So this will now open us up to doing either or, the 2-stop or the 1-stop, because remember in the last 2 seasons, I think, we've done the 1-stop onto soft tyres. The soft tyres are quite consistent tyres, and we've taken the super softs quite a long way compared to our rivals on track in the top 3 of Alonso, Hamilton and Gasly. So I think it is possible and at the same time we can also bail last minute and go on to a bog standard 2 stop, which is 2 sets of softs in the Grand Prix. But we come out then behind Leclerc. Obviously we're not going to gain time on that overcut, but we're going to come out behind Verstappen and just about get Carlos Sainz there on the road side by side, but we're going to have the better line on the outside line of left-hander, but we've actually fallen behind Verstappen there, so the overcut going longer hasn't worked for us, but obviously we weren't trying an overcut, we were just going longer in our stint, so obviously we have to try and see if we can try and get him back with track position if he's doing a 2-stop. But at the moment Hamilton leads the way. Ricciardo in the McLaren's actually second place because he's also trying a 1-stop, but a bit of a contra 1-stop, so he's second, Alonso third, then comes Leclerc and Verstappen, and then we're chasing after Verstappen, so hopefully we can try and close that gap. If not, the 1-stop obviously will give us the track position later on in the Grand Prix, so that's the big advantage of doing this very audacious 1-stop on the 2 softest compounds of tyres. Meanwhile behind us, Sainz actually having to defend from the Toro Rosso car. Oh, I think that's Ocon on the right hand side there on the outside, and he's actually made the move stick there. So Ocon very well. Obviously he performed really well at Australia. He caught myself and Leclerc out kind of annoyingly, very much so at Australia, and so he's doing a mega job to be ahead of the Renault there of Sainz, who obviously had a torrid time last episode, and he was his teammate who took all the glory. So still second race, and Sainz not going to be too happy in that Renault. Meanwhile now we're going to watch, this is Gasly overtaking Ricciardo then for what will be P3 on the road, I think that is, because that is Alonso in P2, and Hamilton was already leading the Grand Prix in first place, and so Ricciardo's lost 2 places in the span of a few laps there. Obviously he's trying a bit of a weird 1-stop, going a bit longer on a set of soft tyres before probably pitting onto a set of mediums, I would say. So Ricciardo may have a bit more of a reliable car this season, but definitely not as fast as that Renault he was driving last season. And as we move on to lap 13, speak of the devil, he's going to make the pit stop there for his one and only won this race, and so we're going to be up into P6. So still pretty good. A little bit annoyed we got overtaken by Verstappen, but you can see in the mini-map he's got so much more pace. I mean, the gap he's brought out is ridiculous, and this is why now I think personally this 1-stop strategy is going to be the only way we can try and match our teammate, really. My teammate, I'm going to put my hands up, Leclerc, has much better pace at the moment here around Bahrain, and so the only way I can catch that gap up, because look at that, he's not even on the mini-map, his dot is physically too far away on the mini-map, so the only way I can try and match him is try this 1-stop and do 1 less pit stop basically, and that's the way we're going to get back in this race. But now at the moment we've got more things to worry about. Carlos Sainz overtakes us, but we're going to send him to a little bit of a dummy. We're going to brake early and switch back that to the inside, and he just gets a bit too hot on the colour in the brake zone there, and he locks up there and ruins his entire overtaking attempt. But eventually on lap 17, this time might be a little bit too futile as he's got DRS potentially. Can he try and overtake us? Doesn't actually look like he has enough speed quite yet, so actually we live to fight another day, and we're up into P2 now with Pierre Gasly, the only leader yet to pit in this Grand Prix. Of course, we're just going to the end now. Everyone else is going to make 1 more pit stop. Even Sainz might make another pit stop, but for now, he's going to overtake us. We're going to try anything to try and squeeze him, but it's just not going to work, and so we just have to accept that he's going to overtake us. It doesn't matter. He's going to pit anyway, so there's no point actually fighting. If we fight him too much, we're going to do ourselves a disservice of losing track position and track time, basically, on all the guys who have pit, including these two, Hamilton and Alonso. They're now on their final stints in this Grand Prix, and Alonso now finally catches up to Hamilton and overtakes him to the inside there. Obviously a very good day in the office for Fernando at the Australian Grand Prix, and the way he's racing at the moment, he could be looking at another strong podium position or even a race win, depending on how this works out, because of course he's going to be up into a net P1 because Hamilton was leading the Grand Prix for most of this race. But there's obviously the added spanner in the works that I'm now here, because as Gasly pits in on now lap 18, as we move on to lap 19, I'm going to take the effective race lead here into P1, and so we'll see. We're going to try our best, hold on for dear life to this P1, and just defend as if our life depends on it. And meanwhile, Gasly and Alonso might scrap it out because Gasly just comes out ahead of Alonso. But Alonso has more momentum through that turn 1, and he gets up into P2. Gasly down to P3, slots in between Alonso and Hamilton here. But Gasly, obviously on a bit of fresher tyres, and he's looking quite punchy in that Red Bull car. So let's see, is it going to be another Red Bull Renault? It's been Red Bull v Renault for like the last 2 seasons now, but this time we're not involved in the fight. It's AI on AI. Here goes Gasly to the inside there, the two side by side, but it's no competition there. Gasly up into P2 with DRS, and so the Honda power working well to push him past, and the Frenchman gets the overtake done. And Alonso actually can't keep up with him as we move on to sector 3. He's actually falling away a little bit. The gap the same from Alonso to Gasly as it is from Alonso to Hamilton, but there's smoke there. No, the Honda engine has failed for Gasly, and so we're going to see, unfortunately, I think that's going to be a retirement for Pierre Gasly. He worked so hard. He was doing so well this race, actually. That was a really good race up until then, but it's going to go up in flames and he has to park up there on the last corner and retire out this Grand Prix. And meanwhile now Alonso gets gifted P2, Hamilton also P3, Leclerc is up into P4, but oh, what's this? Oh my god, Alonso's parked up, Alonso's out of the Bahrain Grand Prix as well. Two major big DNFs here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. There you go, Alonso out of this Grand Prix, unbelievable scenes. So now, I'm in first place still, Hamilton's now gifted up into P2, and Leclerc has been gifted up into P3. This is unbelievable as we go on through the Grand Prix. Leclerc on softer tyres than Hamilton, the better car on paper as well, and Leclerc goes and overtakes him, and so somehow, I don't know how, it's a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo Sauber, and we've only got a finite amount of laps left in this Grand Prix. Absolutely unbelievable scenes. We're in the last 7 laps of this Grand Prix, and we're 1-2 right now. Leclerc, though, has so much more pace. He's on fresher tyres, and then also, like I said earlier, he does have the pace over me at Bahrain. It's very clear, and so I'm still going to push as hard as I can to overtake mode Rich Mix, but that doesn't matter. He's got DRS, he pushes past me, and I've got nothing to work with. I don't even have an inch to maybe try and dive bomb him back, so he's up into first place. I have to put up my hands. He's the faster man today, so I'm going to now switch my mind over to trying to keep this 1-2 if I can, because Verstappen is coming at a rate of knots. We know the Red Bull car is quick around here. Gasly showed that before the retirement, and so there goes Verstappen up into P3. Good overtake, easy overtake on Hamilton now, and so the Dutchman, my former teammate from last season, is going to be right up my chuff now for the final laps here, trying to ruin the 1-2 for Alfa Romeo Sauber. So now I'm going to try my best, my utmost best to try and keep this, because this will be quite something to get a 1-2 in only the second round of the Grand Prix. And meanwhile, that was Carlos Sainz overtaking his old teammate Dan Ricciardo for a good P5, I think that was, as Hamilton's P4, Verstappen P3. I'm still P2 for now on lap 27, so we've got 3 laps left in this Grand Prix, but a big lock-up into turn 1, and you can see, I think, the tyre wear is kicking in big time for us compared to Verstappen as we now move on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix, trying to put the power down as early as we can. Hot lap mode engaged, then overtake mode, Rich Mix going, but Verstappen has DRS crucially, and he's going to fly by me with the Honda power there on the left-hand side. And just like with the overtake Sainz made on us earlier, I don't really have too much I can do there. I try and maybe brake as late as I can. We actually end up locking up and almost hitting the back of Verstappen there, and he, look at the amount of time he's just gained on that one traction zone. So you can tell my tyres are very much off. I think at the end of this, they were about 66% worn, so they were pretty damn bad. I'm actually lucky to still be here in a podium position, to be honest. That's how much track position, obviously, I gained. And then on the last lap of the Grand Prix, meanwhile, whilst we were being overtaken by Verstappen, this was Carlos Sainz overtaking Hamilton up into P4. So it's still a good drive then for Renault, and a good recovery, I guess, for Carlos Sainz, who was down in P9. But the main man today is going to be my teammate, Charles Leclerc. I mean, fair play, GG's. My new teammate wins the Bahrain Grand Prix for round number 2 of this season, but we're going to come through for a double podium in P3. I can still be happy about that. Take into account that we were starting in P13 in this Grand Prix. I will very much take a podium.
That's it for another Grand Prix, and a fantastic win for Sauber. So, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, I'd say it's just raw pace, plain and simple. I mean, we could sit here and talk about strategy all day, the overtaking, looking after the tyres, but at the end of it all, if you want to win, you need a package that's got the speed over everyone else, and that's exactly what they had today.
Looks like they're on their way out to the podium now, and what a result this is, and what a popular one with the crowd as well. Great stuff to see the Sauber team on top here today.
So for the first time in a while, my teammate gets a race victory in a season before I do there. So fair play. Obviously, Leclerc, he's been at this team now for 6 seasons, so he's comfortable with the car. He's grown with this car. He's obviously very used to it. I've been doing nothing but complaining about how weird the car feels. So I definitely do need to go back and do some homework and try and get on top of this thing. But to be fair, P3, like I said, from P13, not too shabby. But Leclerc now leads the Drivers' Championship, and I'm in 3rd place. So very, very odd position to be in. I didn't think we were going to be in this position after round 1 with some struggles with both of us only finishing P4 and P5. But there you go. Miracles do happen, and a great strategy for us worked out. But, I mean, remember, Leclerc did a 2-stop and still won the Grand Prix. you know, he was a fair bit ahead of Verstappen, and it's not like I held up Verstappen too much, so Verstappen had a good shot at catching up to Leclerc. So the only bit of luck was obviously the 2 DNFs ahead of him, which is Gasly and Alonso, but after that, he was literally there on merit, so it's really fair play to Charles Leclerc. And in the Constructors, we're now in the lead of the championship, ahead of Renault and Red Bull there, so consistency paying out in the first 2 rounds. Obviously a double DNF, for, 1 for Renault, 1 for Red Bull there, so that helped out a lot in the Constructors there, but a very, very good start then, and a very, very good round 2, I would say, so we can't really complain at all, and we might have a chance to obviously do some more upgrading into the Chinese Grand Prix. So let's round out the episode then by going to the last few interview questions with Claire.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
I honestly didn't have too much to compliment about where the car was great, because it was still feeling very awkward throughout the entire Grand Prix, but since we're upgrading the engine, I'm going to compliment the engine department, try and get the reputation up on that side of things.
You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you?
And then here we're going to go with the classic showmanship answer there, only if there's an immovable object. That's the only way I'm going to be stopped.
Appreciate your time.
And so now we go to the end of the episode. Very, very happy, guys. So very good day in the office for the Alfa Romeo Sauber team. So be sure to smash that like button, guys, for Leclerc's win there and my pretty good podium recovery, if I do say so myself. We're now going to go through to the end with R&D. Like I said, we could upgrade some more, and we actually have enough resource points to upgrade the final 2 upgrades here on the engine side. It's 1 pure engine power upgrade, and then also a fuel consumption upgrade, I think that is on the bottom there, and both of them within our budget of the R&D points. So next episode, 2 more minor engine upgrades, which depending on if Renault and Red Bull have any more upgrades to do on their engine side, could make our engine, the Alfa Romeo badged Ferrari power unit, could be the best engine on the grid when we rock up next episode to China. So that'll be very, very good as a status kind of thing to have. So a lot to look forward to in round number 3, but for now that's been a great round 2. So like I said, if you did enjoy that one, guys, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. Thank you very, very much, guys, for the support so far on this brand new season. You guys killed it in episode 1. I know we took a little bit of a break, 2 days before uploading this second episode of the season 7, but of course, Christmas just happened, so a little bit slower on that, but now that's kind of stopped. We're going to ramp back that up, so you should see more uploads of this season, but thank you very, very much now, guys, for the continued support. 7 seasons in. Obviously, we're making it a little bit interesting here and there and carrying on the freshness of the career mode, but you guys are still, still there with the major support, so I really, really appreciate that, so thank you so much for that. I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.